business straight out the gate again, brother streets.
Let's
Support
go.
for this podcast is brought to you by Market Squawk.
Squawk.
Market Squawk. Yes, Market Squawk, your #1 financial data news service powered by livesquawk.co.uk. Low latency, pay as you go, come and go as you please. Literally, you sign in, you've got all of the data you need for any asset class you want. And also, I think we should have a little shout out to our additional sponsor, xbrain.co.uk.
Yeah, I was going to say that. They've been sending the goodies.
Little bit of high-end collagen there.
Yeah, I've got like a proper post coming because I've like didn't do it before with this lovely.
Oh, you did that
box as well.
Yeah. That's big stuff. That one.
Phantasmagoric.
Yeah, the quarter-set one in that is for G's. The Roshi one is for G's. Like, I like that. A little bit gaggy when it comes to the taste because you are consuming liquid mushrooms, but also the chill pills power. And the
sleepy
power and the brain optimizer. Now, I would love to handle some of the naming conventions for some of their supplements personally, but no. xbrain.co.uk, promo code Fighting Words knocks 30% off anything that is Xbrain branded. They are,
and we're talking money today, so I mean that's the best way to start, right? Saving your money, knowing what to do with your money,
using it appropriately.
It's not a shameless plug. It's just it all ties in.
There it is. Also, thank you to all of the new subscribers on the YouTubes. Oh, thank you to the listeners on the audio platforms, and thank you for the Patreon patrons. We keep moving forward. £2 a month now will make you a local celebrity. I might even make that local internet celebrity, which is even better, isn't it?
It's like the global champ, isn't it?
Yeah. So tonight, Floyd Mayweather Jr. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Where do you have him in your top 5 ever? Top 10 ever?
I mean, listen, he's the guy. Should we just let's get straight into it? Let's rattle off his accolades, and that way the listeners can listen.
Wait 1 second, because as you know that at the minute this is not your day of the month where you do the YouTube comments, right? Listen, Ian and I are both Floyd fans, right? If you are a fan of the sport, then you pretty much should be a Floyd fan. Irrelevant of his antics outside the ring, irrelevant of his antics inside the ring, irrelevant of his personality, personas, whatever. He is a virtuoso, and he 100% deserves everything that he has. He's earned it, and he's earned it the hard way, and it's not been easy. And, you know, I personally won't be talking very much about his extracurriculars, should we say, with legal issues and stuff like that. It's not about that. Like, you know, there will be a pause in his career for a little bit because he did go inside. I don't care what it was about. It's not my problem. It's not my business. Please continue.
So, and that's a very good point. And also the other thing, which, because, you know, we're going to start from when he was a kid. These are the history eps. This is the great thing where a lot of people maybe that are new to the sport and they just kind of like, because a lot of people, like we've said before with Tyson, there's kids now who know Mike Tyson as the guy from The Hangover. That is just mind blowing, but it's just, you know, we're fucking old. So that's how things are. Another thing, which I'm struggling to think of someone who has a resume of more people.
A resume
of more people that we're probably going to do a history ep on than Floyd. Like, he has literally fought everybody. The people he fought, it was a murderer's row, savage upon savage. He fought them all. He beat them all.
Well, yeah, like his box rec, like the first 17 fights are his development fights. And after that 17th fight, when he goes for his world title, after the world title fight, there's maybe 1 or 2 names that you don't really know that well. And then it's like banger, 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 strange MMA guy, but banger. But it's just a phenomenal.
Yes.
It's just a crazy lineup.
And like going back for him to get there, like you said at the start, it wasn't easy. And yeah, he is going to throw that shit around, because when you hear, and that's the idea of these history eps, is you see these guys do have a history. It's not given to them on a platter. They fucking come up the hard way. And Floyd he had it rough. Like, however you want to do it, he had it fucking rough. And for him to achieve what he's achieved is incredible. So you can see why he's got a chip on his shoulder. For him to have the family that have been adversely affected by the effects of taking too many punches, you can see why he is the way he is. So a lot of things get put in perspective. That's what we're going to try and do today. So, I mean, right, 15 major world championships. Big. Super feather to light middle. Fucking incredible. Ring magazine in 5 weight classes. Lineal, shout out. There's a great thing up on YouTube, actually, just dropped today on Lineal for the heavies. And you'll see how much of an achievement that is. 44 people total. Lineal in 4 weight classes, Floyd is. Undefeated.
I mean, there you go. Right.
Hall of Fame class of 2021, which is so quick for someone. I mean, he's retired 100 times, but still, for someone so newly retired, it's incredible. He's Hall of Fame. And out of the top 5 highest grossing fights in history, Floyd's in 4 of them. I mean, numbers don't lie. Like he likes to say, it's fucking true. Like, it's hard to argue with that shit.
Pay-per-view, he is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 8 on the top 10 of all time.
Yeah.
All right. Fine. Sure. I mean, in the States, he's responsible
for
so much,
$1.7
billion of pay-per-view buys on his own. 1.7 billion.
And by so much, like number 5 is nowhere near number 1. And that's Holyfield and Tyson.
Yeah. And like number 1 was 400 million. Right. It's an astonishing amount of money. There was some of the accolades that I like. He won the WBA Triumph of Gold Championship belt. What does that even mean?
And the money belt, WBC money belt.
The money belt, but that was only surpassed by the 24 karat gold WBC belt. Now, there wasn't just the gold champion, it was the 24 karat gold champion.
Yeah.
And then obviously, Emerald, Supreme Champion, Emeritus. Like the some of the pictures of him with cash and him with belts are just bands.
Yeah.
Right? It's just
I love that he was with all his cash. Just like, I'm not paying the fucking sanctioning fees. Fuck that. He's like, belts only collect dust. Is like, especially when you got that many of them, he don't need more belts. And like we were saying, there was a high chance he'd come back and just bin the fucking belts. Just like, you can keep that shit.
That was just the product of the fight for him. Like, listen, so from a fight history perspective, this is probably one of the lightest pre-study ones. For the person, the family in the background, there's been a lot more to it, because like for you and me, like this is peak.
Yes.
This is like,
it's actually a little bit sad that this is a history app, because this is our time. Like we saw this happen.
But like this goes back to the question I asked you at the start. Like most people, there's going to be dickheads out there. We saw an amazing list of like the top 10 pound for pound of all time, and it had like Ronald McDonald in it, and it had all manner of made up names. Right?
I love when people's top 10 of all time has like 8 current fighters, and you're like,
wait, hold on. Yeah.
Not since you started watching boxing, like,
step back. Like, Mike Tyson is the history. And that's all good. But like, you have to, as a consensus, probably have Sugar Ray Robinson number 1. Yeah. Right. Muhammad Ali, probably number 2. Number 3, you're looking at an up for grabs situation with maybe 10 fighters. Floyd can very easily be one of them. If he's not top 3, he's top 4. If he's not top 4, he's for sure top 5. Like he has changed boxing as a sport. He has changed that. He's changed the promotional side of it. He's changed. So, let's not forget, every single episode of 24/7 executive producer, Floyd Mayweather Jr., every single one. And every single one, they were producing these immensely watchable. Like, I'll watch 24/7 now. I do that shit on the treadmill.
Yeah, that shit was like, the bomb. You want to wake up with that voice. You want that.
What would leave? That's Ray Donovan, isn't it? You got Ray Donovan just talking in your head. It's time to wake up. Right? It's just, he's the one that is the reason to start that. And all they're doing with those ones after the De La Hoya one, which obviously we'll get to and all that stuff, that's where it all started. That was much more what 24/7 I think was supposed to be. Then after that, he took it to essentially Challenger working their nuts off, Floyd cruising around in a Veyron fucking about, Challenger doing battle ropes, Floyd having a Big Mac, never swallowing.
Yeah.
Never see that dude swallowing. Right. He is the hardest worker known to humanity. He is never out of shape. Even when he's out of shape, he says he's out of shape. He's still in shape. He's still like that. That man is a elite of the elite, world-class athlete. No matter what sport he decided to do, he would have been that because everything also, that drove him. Yeah.
His media workout. I mean, fuck me. You want to see a guy not rest? Watch Floyd at a media workout.
Well, no, fuck that. Like, you know, not only changing the sport to what we have now, mate. How many PTs out there do you know that were just flaunting either quote unquote Vegas style or Mayweather style pad workouts? And you just like, okay, fine. I've had people come in and say they want Mayweather pads, and you're like, all right. Okay.
And
why like, though?
To fucking drop this, let me give anyone that hasn't had the pleasure, Mayweather pads is fucking horrific in the best way. But every time on the pads with Floyd Sr., there will be a little clip of me this close to dying. And every time
you want to cry sometimes. It's like, normally at the end of the combo when not only are you thrilled that you've nailed this, like you've thrilled it. He's just standing there giving it this. Why aren't you jabbing 17 times right now until your arm doesn't work anymore? And there's this part where it's just the switch doesn't switch, does it? And you just want to die.
Yeah, you're like, do you not have a round timer? Like, what are we doing here? Like 15 fucking minutes, and you do like power shots for the last 2 minutes of it. It's shot. But then, and that is the thing for me, seeing the level of the people there and realizing they're so far removed from Floyd, it really puts a real person perspective into it. And you see, I mean, we're going to get to it, but Canelo, perfect example. Look how fucking incredible Canelo is. And then watch Canelo and Floyd and just be like, there's fucking levels to this shit.
He had at least 6 like pivotal fights where he had someone in front of him that was supposed to be as close to a challenge as possible. And every single one of those liquidated them. Like every single one. He is the epitome of a big game player. Those lights come on, he turns into a different person.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Who's your favorite fight, first of all? Right. I want to go into that because like the favorite Floyd fight.
I mean, I hate to say it because I fucking love the guy, but the Gutty fight is
assault. It was assault on the boardwork. That was bad. That was a terrible mismatch. It was appalling.
Because that is like, we're going to see masterclasses down the line of Money May, but that was a pretty boy masterclass, which is a very different thing. Pretty boy, when he was on his way up, was fucking people up. It wasn't about, you know, this defensive genius. That was in there too, but it was aggression. He was fucking hurting people.
Well, I think that's a good a place as any to start, right? So run us through Grand Rapids, Michigan. Even that's a mouthful to say that one.
He is, and we had a little text where I realized that it's not February. It would seem right now we're still in January, so it's not his birthday tomorrow. I thought we could kill, you know, jump in on something, but yeah, I haven't missed my anniversary, which is good. I haven't missed a few days of work, which is even better. So yeah, February 24, not January 24, February 24, he's born. He's actually born Floyd Joy Sinclair. So he had his mum's name that changed relatively quickly. We've already alluded to the fact that he had it tough. She had addiction problems. There'd often be needles out the front of his house. He lost his aunt to AIDS from the drug use. So
got shot.
Yeah. Becomes
it was a wild space.
He becomes Mayweather, and that's boxing royalty. You know, you got Floyd Sr., he's fought Sugar Ray. You got Jeff, who is one of the nicest.
This is it, right? They are a fighting family of like probably the only ones that you can maybe think about, but they're not on the same level is probably the Furies. Like you're talking about like you said, Senior, who's fast as fuck now. He's got to be 75, fast as anything. Right, an amazing fighter, just didn't make it to world championship level.
Yep.
Right,
And busts out pull-ups like a motherfucker. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, but he looks like that type, doesn't he? He just looks like long, wiry, and dangerous. Then you got the late Roger Mayweather, the Black Mamba. Now, Roger, probably the scariest trainer of all time. You got that geezer in your corner. You know that geezer is ready to go at any moment, at any point, and he will fight you. There's stories of him training fighters and jumping in, doing sparring with them and doing like the proper dog pound, no rounds,
I mean, quits. I know I've told you this story. This is the perfect time to tell it for the people that haven't heard it, but like meeting Roger the first time was like a dream come true. And imagine your hero facing up to you and being this close to punching me in the fucking face. And I was like, what have I done? And Floyd had to come and the manager had, sorry. Because his vision's so bad, bless him, in later years, he just kind of responds to everything with like violence. And he did it to
That's where I want to get to.
Who's known for years. Yeah, exactly. Where it's okay. But that guy is the grandfather of, if you're doing pads these days and you think you're putting together good combos, you know, that's Roger inspired. He changed the game for that style of things. That family, the offensive and defensive genius came together so beautifully. Yeah. And don't forget, like I said, Jeff fucking such a good dude as well.
So he's got this, you know, he's got two uncles that are world-class fighters and a dad that's a world-class fighter.
Yeah.
You know,
Roger fought Costa, he fought Chavez, Whitaker.
Yeah.
Two like world champion twice. Fucking hell.
And a terrifying puncher.
Yeah.
Like Jeff is probably the most placid of all of them, right? Yeah. And Jeff, even then, Jeff was a world champion of some sorts. He's good. You know, he's a good fighter.
Yeah.
So he's got these fighting family uncles, and you know, he's fully in at this point. So growing up in a one bed, apparently with 7 of them living there, which I assume is his 4 siblings. That would be 5, then the mum 6, and then maybe senior coming in and out.
Yeah.
No heat, no electric. That make you strong, that.
Fuck yeah. That gives you a purpose, and that gives you, when you've got all these millions, you can start seeing where, like, imagine if you're from anything remotely to that. If you got it tough, imagine you wake up one day with all the cash in the world. Wouldn't a bit of you want to go, fucking look at this shit, look what I got? Especially if you didn't just wake up with it. If you busted your fucking ass for 40 years getting it.
So this is it, right? So he's born into a fighting family. Not often does that yield other fighters, because the fighters don't want the offspring to do what they had to do. Wasn't the case with the Mayweathers.
Floyd, as soon as he could walk, he's punching.
Yep. And
there's videos of him tiny with techers. Like,
yeah,
he was born for this shit.
I saw something today that said that he was like a professional on the speed bag at like 4.
Yeah.
Because he's being held up to muck about a bit. Like, he's bred for it. Like, absolutely and utterly bred for it from day one till now. And I'd be very interested, because he's got, like, one of his sons is supposed to be like an MMA fighter, but you don't really see that much. The nephew, though, Roger's son.
Yeah.
He trains Roger's son a little bit as well now. And Roger's son apparently wants to be. Do you remember him when he's on the 24/7 beating the shit out the fridge?
Oh,
there was like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's even then, just next wave.
Yeah.
So look, he's in abject poverty. His dad is a drug dealer, as well as a boxer, trainer, etc., etc. His mum is a drug addict. His dad would sell drugs to his mum.
Yeah.
There was a altercation where Floyd was being held as an infant. The mum's brother shot Floyd Senior whilst he was holding Floyd. Strangely though, like early doors with Floyd, he only talks about his dad. Like his dad got sent to prison, right? Yeah. During the upbringing. So so look, Floyd's amateur career was at 84 and 6, 3-time national champion, went to the 96 Atlanta Olympics. Got proper robbed. But before that, with Floyd Senior in prison, I believe he sent him to Rog. Now, Rog didn't really handle him.
Living with the grandma, who'd bounce him to the mama every now and then. And Roger took him. Yeah,
but after a couple of weeks, like, Roger was not up for it, and he got sent to a guy named Don Hale, who big house, you know, manager of like Frankie Randall, who's the dude that beat Chavez for the first time. And like, you know, he speaks openly about if Floyd, even as a teenager, when he saw them doing 10 rounds, he's doing 12. If he's doing 14, he's doing 16. If he's running 5K, I'm running 10. Like every single one of them, his conditioning was always the thing for him, which is phenomenal, isn't it? Because you would always think that it would be the skill with him, but then when you start to really look into it, like he's
everything in it,
preternaturally gifted, as well as it's in the blood, as well as he's supremely conditioned, as well as he's an animal.
Yeah, I mean, we've told the story on the pod on a separate thing, but it's the Floyd special, so we'll mention it again.
Yeah,
when it comes time to fight Hatton told the story where he was like, listen to this. They put on the thing that Floyd was trying to pay the pilot to land before like race planes. He's like, it doesn't work like that. We'll die if the. He's like, no. How much will it cost? You know, he's just that winner mentality. Yeah, just to be number one, man.
Listen, in that 96 Atlanta, the ref lifts his hand, right? They gave it 10-9 to the guy in the final round, who it's some Bulgarian dude who 100%. Like, I want to know what he does.
Serafim Todorov.
That's what I'm saying. But like, what does he do day to day?
Do you know what? Funnily enough, this came up about a month. It was on Luther, actually. One of the Bulgarians showed me a video of him like a few years ago, because he's just like, he's a farmer. He does like nothing. There was talk quite a while later of him doing a fight against Floyd, and like when he was doing these
great white hype style,
or just like, you know, like a bit of a like banter type thing. He's like, oh, do it. He's from very simple backgrounds, did nothing afterwards, but you know, always has the thing that he beat Floyd. But like you said, you know, Floyd's hand was raised. One of the judges resigned after that. He's like, I don't want to be any part of this. This continues to happen.
It's bullshit. It's a bullshit call.
Yeah.
So 96, he turns pro, right?
Yeah.
Turns pro and rattles off 17 wins, 13 of them by knockout. And Floyd, the early Floyd that you see there, the pretty boy one, is a very different fighter, right? And that pretty boy exists all the way up to the De La Hoya fight. After the De La Hoya fight, it goes.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there's little snippets of it, like the Baltimore fight, Baltimore, whatever. You know, it's whatever. So,
and CompuBox has him as the most accurate boxer in history. Like, people think of him as, you know, because he is. He's one of the best defensive fighters, if not the best defensive fighter ever. But he's actually like number one on CompuBox. Like, since they've been recording punches, he's landed the most.
For sure. Well, I don't understand. Like, there must be, you know how some people just have a vibe where you're like, that's a good dude. I like to be around that guy. The only thing that I can assume is that he puts out something to the opposite, because when you're watching the old Floyd fights, the commentary is so complimentary about him. Like, he's so fast. He's this defensive.
Emmanuel Stewart said on his debut that he's going to go on to be the best ever. So
George Foreman done the same thing, right? Yeah. When they're asking when they're saying, George, what do you think about Floyd saying like he deserves more money and this and this and this? And he's like, look, you want to get on the train now? Yeah, there's already a lot of us on the train, but you want to get on it now. So there was something to do with the HBO team that was just, I don't know if they did it. Like, I wouldn't put it past him, even early doors, to say, just neck me out every time you got the mic in front of me. Listen, I don't care, because it's going to probably produce something that gets sent about. He's having arguments with everyone. You know, Max Kellerman he's had a load with. Larry Merchant is a very famous one with. That one geezer who looks like the old Sky Sports BT Sport man who cuts his own hair. Kevin something in the States. He's having massive rows with him on, like, it's just like,
the Yahoo guy, Ioli or whatever.
Like, he's having arguments with all of them. So, like we said, rattled off his first 17, destruction, right? Gets a title shot against an undefeated featherweight pro. He had not lost at featherweight. He had lost before. Good fighter, you know, widely hailed as a full world champion. And it was one of the ones where they wanted to see what Floyd had, more so than to see him get beat at that point, I think, by the sounds of things. And as typical with Floyd on big fights, when it is a pivotal fight, just fucked him up. Fucked him up. And the dude, after the interview, like the after fight interview, he's literally like, he's so quick. He's going to be a champion for a long time. He's just a great fighter. He's a true champion. Like, what more do you want? Right. So that makes him WBC super featherweight champion.
Yes, it does.
Defends it 8 times.
Yep.
Yeah. In that list,
I mean, he defends against Angel Manfredi, who's a fucking great fighter. Second round KO.
Yep.
And so 98, he's one of the youngest recipients of the Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year. 21, he's the same age as Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali. Like, already he's in this kind of territory, which is fucking mental. But
even with the world title fight, because he basically, that bronze changed the trajectory of his career. Probably feel better. If he won gold, who knows what we would have got, right?
For sure.
So that bronze made him, on his 3rd fight as a pro, he was getting $7.5 grand. De La Hoya, who won gold, the Olympics before that, who was the star of the 90s, like, no, unanimously, like no one can say anything. He was the king of the 90s. Roy was the best fighter of the 90s. Oscar was the biggest name in the 90s.
Yeah, who's making all the cash that's not a heavyweight? It was fucking Oscar.
He was getting 50 grand on his 3rd fight. So,
that's
he had a massive
that's
chip
some
on his
Sugar
shoulder.
Ray and Hagler shit.
But also, like, if you're Floyd and you've got the biggest promoter in the game backing you, and you are this virtuoso, like the interesting thing he says about that bronze medal is, like, I didn't win that. I received it.
Yes.
You don't win a bronze medal. You get given a bronze medal for losing, right? Someone like him should never be on bronze.
Yeah.
That's how he's seen that. And it's like that never happens again. And that's it, done forever. So he's got the biggest promoter in the game. He has a style at that point that you couldn't call him boring. He was a phenom.
Right? So his 5th defense. So he's still relatively new, but he's a champ at a very young age. He's in his 5th defense. He's on national television. And I think it was Lampley was saying he switched to southpaw for the 2nd time. Mid-fight, leans over, 3rd time. Like, and he did that multiple times throughout his career. Like, where it's like, how are you so lasered in? Because he is in the fucking matrix from round 1 bell to round 12, but he is just in it. But he's still so hyper aware of the corner. Like, there's that famous clip with Floyd Senior. We better, like, Floyd, you ain't listening. Yes, I am. And he repeats it where it clearly looks like he's, thinking about what he's going to have for dinner after. That's insanity.
There's another one where the fight, and obviously it's a bit tongue in cheek from Lampley and Merchant and whoever was the 3rd man, probably Roy at that point, where they're talking about NFL that's later that weekend. That. And like he's literally just giving it the shoulder, gives him a little bump, and he just leans over and he's like, "Oh, I like this team because I like this player." And then they're like, "Floyd Mayweather likes this fight." It's just like, but he's a victim of his own dominance, even at this stage. So this phenom. They don't know what he's capable of. They've not seen any adversity because he's simply too good. And already, like, the neg is coming up, even though he's 21-year-old world champion fighter of the year. Like, this is the weird thing, is that someone important all the way through his career is like proper neg on him. And that's the weird thing about it. If it's not the press, it's the fans. If it's not the fans, then it's the commentary team. If it's not the commentary team, then it's either at early doors, the promoter or the TV company that has him. Someone is always pulling him down.
That's such a recurring theme. And you see, even now, like, that's why people like you, but they like you more after a loss. Because it's like, people say they want a winner, but they also don't want someone to be too dominant. They don't want to, and they're like, "Oh, it's boring. I don't want to see this." It's like, fucking why?
To quote Johnny Nelson, at this point, he is like the head, top, undisputed captain of the Who Needs Him club, right? Yes, he's a world champion. There are other big world champions out there. Diego Corrales is lurking around, like you said. Like, Corrales at this point is a superstar, and he's undefeated. He's a 6-foot fucking, super featherweight and lightweight. He's a knockout artist. He's fun to watch. He's fun to listen to. He's ticking all of the boxes. And then, due to a little bit of an injury and a little bit of a gap, Floyd had about 7 months off, and they took him from number 2 on pound for pound, put him at number 5, and put him beneath Diego. And Diego, the fight with Diego was like another pivotal fight. You saw that was against someone that was supposed to, an undefeated destroyer, was supposed to at least.
I'm going to insert right before we get into this, because this is such a good fight to fucking get into. The one before that, Emmanuel Augustus. We need an F on that guy. Anybody, just YouTube, Drunken Master, Emmanuel Augustus, just fucking watch this guy's fight. And then we're going to cover, we got you, don't worry. But like, the guy would take fights against savages on such short notice, rock up, his skill. And Floyd does like to say about people he stopped, but he says he makes that his hardest opponent that he fought. And
that fight, you saw him bleed. That was the first. So in this sort of transitional period, so, you know, Senior's in prison. Roger's got the pro job, right? Roger and Jeff, they're doing it, but Roger's the main, Jeff is helping out. You know, Floyd comes back into the scene, and it's like Floyd and Rog at certain points, and things are getting tense. Him and Floyd have a pretty fractured relationship, even though they speak only about how much they love each other. They just can't get along for whatever reason. But Roger's now got this. Now you're talking about the two brothers, let's, like, you know, no disrespect to Jeff. Let's talk Rog and Floyd. Okay. Floyd, a phenomenal defensive fighter and counter shot in like a swarming counter shot fighter. Roger knock your fucking teeth out. Okay. But they both come from the same lineage, right? Now, Floyd can do all of the defense, and early doors, he was doing all of the offense with the defense. Then when Rog took over, I think Rog did a very clever thing, which is like, look, we're not getting you the fights that you need. So we're going to be a little bit more offensive. And someone like an Emmanuel, who was landing weird shots, who's going to be there to have a proper fight with you. Yes, you saw him bloodied up a little bit. And, you know, the hands had already started to go at that point. And like I mean, look, you're talking about a fighter that's 50-0. Okay. You can count on one hand how many times you've seen him rocked. And you can count with one finger the only time where you could have actually envisioned something properly naughty happening to him was against Mosley, right?
Mosley, yeah.
He went down, and I think it was a fight with Hernandez where he broke his hand and took a knee, right?
Yeah, well, touched his glove on the thing.
Yeah, touched his glove, right? He probably got knocked down by judo.
Yeah.
That's a technical one, that one.
Yeah.
And then, like, he wore a massive shot from Maidana, kind of laughed it off. There was one piston like pushing jab from Hatton that made him stumble, but we don't count that as a rocking. But it's one of the few times where you've seen an out of control Floyd due to a shot. And then, of course,
Cotto bloodied his nose. But I mean,
the Cotto fight was crazy.
I fucking love that fight. That's also up there. Isn't it ridiculous that I mean, that's how he got his name, Pretty Boy Floyd. Like, even in the amateur days, it's like, just don't touch it. The guy doesn't look like he's been in a fight at the end of a fight against fucking savages. It's not like he's beating up chumps.
But this is what I've never been able to understand about him. Why the hate? Because he is fast. He's fun to watch. He's good to talk. He's good to hear speak. When he wants, he puts it on and you are in trouble. And at this point, you know, after the Augusta fight, that's probably one of the hardest fights he'd had, if not the hardest. And you had seen him bloodied up a little bit. You know, you're not seeing someone that's soft.
Yeah.
So it's one thing if you're all of those things, but if you're like baby shit, fight fans won't want you, right? Yes. They want the gatties. They want the ones that are going to go out on their shield just to be a fan. But Floyd will go out on his shield.
He just never let it get to the point where that's even on the cards.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a true testament to his craft and skills. Okay. So where were we?
So we're at Chico, 33-0, 27 KOs, ranked number 1 as a super featherweight. Floyd's number 2. Like you said, they'd bump Floyd down on pound for pound and Chico up. This is probably a good time to touch on it. Fight was delayed. Chico had some things for domestic abuse. Mayweather made comments saying that he was going to do it for all the battered women, which obviously later down the line came back to haunt him when his thing came up.
Bands.
Yeah. But the fight, when it happened, what a fucking fight it was. You know, we talked, Chico had the height, he had the reach, hell of a fucking fighter, hammers for hands. None of that mattered. No. Neither of them had touched the canvas at this time.
No.
At the end of the fight, one of them would have multiple, what, fucking 5 times, 6 times, like five times.
And then his dad stopped
3 in
it.
1 round, and then 2. Like, that was horrific. All the angles, all the shots, the control, that pivot to
He just knew he knew exactly what he needed to do. They knew exactly what they needed to do. It was one of those. It's like when you hear the corners are very like dismissive of the fighters that Floyd are going against, because they do kind of know what they're talking about. And
when you're landing repetitious right hands on someone, it's a hard day at the office. Making them a knee slide when fucking
it's gross. And even so, look, it worked against him though, right? Yep. So he had that fight. Then he's calling out Casamayor and Fritez and like the other ones that I can't remember off the top of my head, but none of them want him because now he's even riskier and he's just destroyed.
Corrales, who was supposed to be a massive challenge. We've talked about Floyd being the most accurate. Corrales, and notice it because I fucking love Corrales, but he breaks a record for being the first fighter to hit single digits of punches landed in a round on Floyd. So not only is this motherfucker the most accurate, he's hard as shit to hit. It's a nightmare. Nothing. Like you said, all risk.
Yeah, exactly. It's all risk. And, you know, Bob's not putting up the cash to make it viable.
Yep.
And on top of that, there is only one massive star that's not a heavyweight at the minute, and that's Oscar. And Oscar's on the same promotional stable as you.
Yep.
And Bob's not picking up your call. He's going to pick up Oscar's. It's all fuel for the Mandem.
Yep. So he heads back, and this is the Hernandez fight we were talking about, where his hands are an issue now. And hits, touches, and it's a shame because this fight happened in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It was kind of like his homecoming fight. He wasn't happy with his performance at all. He gets a decision, touches the canvas for the first time, but as always, he gets the win.
Yep.
And last fight is super featherweight.
Yeah. So then someone did take the call on a big fight, which was Jose Luis Castillo. Now, Castillo is like if you were to imagine what you think a Mexican boxer is, it is Castillo, right? He comes out, he's got a fucking headband on like Chavez. He was Chavez's sparring partner. He's a pressure fighter. He doesn't really appreciate it when you miss him. Like he is just going to absolute phone box fuck you in the mouth.
100%, and just Bukaki style all in the face when he's done. And
there it is,
2 in a row, because we've just talked about Corrales. We're talking about Castillo. Sorry, COVID.
Yep.
It actually is this time. If you have not seen their fight, fucking watch that fight. Corrales Castillo is what we're going to do. Our most entertaining we should probably do, and most skilled fights. Shout out Russ.
The Patreon only. I think me and Jesse come up with Off Your Box because of
there you go.
It is due to the whole theme.
But anyway. That fight, fucking epic. Those guys, and again, this fight though, Castillo close.
Yeah, it was. And
also highlights something that plagues a lot of people to this day. What makes it even closer is if you land the shot on Floyd, it's like landing 50 shots because it never happens. So
they were, when they used to talk about comparative rounds,
yes,
where they give you a round because you did less bad than the other rounds you've done. That it was one of those, like, look, Floyd, they both had a point taken away. Floyd had a torn rotator cuff, he says, and 2 broken ribs for that fight. And I got no reason to doubt that.
100. I mean, the thing is, you cannot dispute that straight away. It's one of the 2 times he'll give a rematch. If it's close, he'll do a rematch.
Yep.
Did the immediate rematch, got surgery on his shoulder, which is, clearly it's fucked. Rematch completely different. So it is what it is. Like,
but even then, that fight, that first Castillo fight, instead of being like he was injured and he did, like, in the last few rounds, like last three rounds, he didn't move. He just was fighting him.
Yeah.
Right. And you're fighting someone that's supposed to be an absolute, like, blood and guts Aztec warrior that's meant to destroy you. And you're standing there, you're holding your ground. It's your first fight up at the new weight division. I think Castillo was 9 pounds heavier than Floyd on the night. Yeah. Like, all of these things. And Castillo was naughty with weight as well. Even towards the end of his career, he got proper saucy when it come to weight. Right. And he still beat him. Like you said, immediate rematch. He can get it again, and he shut shit down. Right. As you would expect. That is where you had this weird sort of intermediate era with Floyd, right? Is you know, like, oh, Chop Chop hurt him as well. Chop Chop proper wobbled him, and that's in that little era, right? So he can't get big fights.
Yeah.
The champions, the other champions are eluding him. They don't want it. The press talk about his skill, his accolades, his, you know, repping at pound for pound, number 1, number 2. What year was the Castillo fight? Because like there's a crossover, right? So as that period is going on, Floyd is the undefeated lightweight champ, right? No one, they know it's around that time. No one really wants to fight him. He's willing to fight anyone, and he's very vocal. Like when one person is calling out the champions, not calling out like, "I'll fight," it's the same as Boo Boo. Yeah, like Boo Boo now is in a very similar situation, but I don't know what Floyd did to get out of it, right? They still aren't really giving him the love that he wants. And Roy, who is the pound for pound number 2, and a commentator and a rapper and anything and everything you could possibly expect, gets absolutely fucking starched by Antonio Tarver. And that kind of swings things a little bit. Floyd all of a sudden becomes pound for pound.
Yeah.
So he's got all of the boxing press, all of the industry loving him up. Fans don't give a fuck about him. TV company, like he's an attraction, but his co-main.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You see the seats, like even when you make like 6,000 people watching, it's like fuck.
Yeah, like there was one thing where he couldn't sell 2,000 in his hometown, and you're like, seems a bit strong. So there's a little period where he's like battering. Is it Ndu?
Yeah, Philip Ndu, who like
shout out battering.
Big man. Nelson Mandela gave him some advice before, and I love that he boxed, and you know, Mayweather rightly so, like, got all the respect in the world for Mr. Mandela, but he ain't in the ring, and no, he ain't. Battered in the dough. So
yeah, Chop Cooley landed on him, hurt him.
Big up
Floyd continued
with Chop.
And then, like, again, something to note with Floyd, like he's paid for opponents' funerals before when they've died. Yep. When Chop did that brought Chop into pre-TMT at that point. He was used as a sparring partner an awful lot. There you go. Shout out to the money team.
Now just need some of the cash to go with it.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it? But he does take care of the people that he's around, right? So then, Gatty. Atlantic City Brawl Walk. Now you have Thunder versus Lightning, was what it was billed as. Now you had a really strong build-up where Floyd was calling Gatty a club fighter and a C+ fighter, right? And, you know, there's just something that, like, I hear that and I'm like, Bants, right? Funny. Gatty didn't really take it that well, and neither did the fans.
Yeah, Gatty's like on the fucking Diaz brothers style of taking shit talk. Like he's down to ride at any point.
Like literally at any point. Now, this was Floyd's first foray into pay-per-view because he says that Bob Arum was keeping him away from it. And I probably don't doubt that, because you don't really want to be developing another pay-per-view star that's going
to rival yours.
Yeah, that's going to rival the one that you've got that's already on your stable, because it's just like, to what end?
Yeah.
Right? Just have him keep him sweet.
Unless they're on the verge of retiring, and then you can sell them out in a fight that had a bullshit decision.
How dare you?
Badly. And
how dare you? But Gatty versus Mayweather it's like he's like a cat toying with a mouse toy, not even an actual mouse.
Yeah,
it's awful.
Gatty, like, you pick a fight, it's going to be fucking entertaining. Pick a fight, and you're going to see a guy whose heart, like how it fits in his chest, I'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute fucking beast. He's the champ, and he got fucked up. Floyd it's one of those times, like you said, when those lights go on, the bigger the fight, the bigger the performance. That was a fucking masterclass. And it's one of the times I kind of wanted to make a little clip of it. You almost see, the pad work where everyone goes, that won't work. He basically pulls out those combos on Gatty. It's fucking insane.
It was a perfect performance. Right, it was a perfect 100%. Performance, and like we spoke with Buddy McGirt, not shouting out that episode, but Buddy McGirt was speaking quite candidly about it. Do you know what was messed up though? Was after that fight, his first pay-per-view, he's now now the WBC 140 light welterweight champion. Larry Merchant says you were calling him a paper champion. Do you dare to lift your paper title? And he's like, Larry, like basically just fuck off.
Fuck off.
Is the way it was. Just basically fuck off now. Yeah. Right. And it was rude. And then there was another one with that Kevin guy at this same time. And he's just like, you're not the champion at 140. You wasn't the champion at 135. You're not the champion at 147. Like, I just don't.
Some guys that don't have any titles.
But this is what he says to him. He's like, how many fights you had? Because you know a lot about it. But so yeah. After that, fight Shambe Mitchell. Shambe Mitchell gets stopped. Shambe Mitchell was a good fighter.
He fucking was.
He really was. Like, good fighter. Then he goes up to 147 to fight Zab Judah.
What a fucking eventful fight. Good fight.
Another thing I want to state is that during that Zab Judah fight, that was like probably the highest point of rap music, right? That is Def Jam at its peak. That's Bad Boy at its peak. And Floyd was living that rapper lifestyle and still no one cared.
Yeah.
And they hated it for it. Like, but Zab was crazy. Yeah. Like, I always wonder just if Zab had the head, if he had the mental strength, like how that's an undisputed, that's a true undisputed.
And the skin, that guy cut like fuck.
But it's just so, there was just
skill set on him.
He was so phenomenal and he hit so hard and he was so fast. And it didn't even seem like he gassed. Like, yeah, he just stopped. Like, he just kind of quit without, it was just a really strip. Anyway, first few rounds of that fight, very, very close, right? Kind of gave Zab the edge.
Yeah, and this and Chop Chop, to be fair, is kind of what bred the whole Floyd struggles with Southpaws thing. Yeah, to be fair, Floyd's known for his check hook. He uses the pivot off and just gets cracked down the center line by Zab. You could tell Zab had done his homework. Zab's like we said, elite fighter. Floyd does what Floyd does though, and
have you ever seen the pull up? The two boys that do DAZN now,
right?
Early doors of DAZN, they did something called the pull up, right? Where they would go down like someone talking all manner of mad shit on X fighter, right? And what there was this geezer who worked in like a trainer shop in Brooklyn somewhere, and then like they've gone in and they're like, oh my god, Barack, oh yeah, sick, yeah, amazing, lovely to meet you. And he's just like, he gave it to Jay and Bob. He's like, any chance did you say that Zab Judah has no chin, no heart, no nothing, and you'd beat the shit out of him? And he's like, hey, yeah. In comes Zab, and he shits himself so bad that he drops his phone, and he's like, Zab, you know I was only playing, right? He's only playing. Zab doesn't miss a beat. He's just like, listen, just look, we're going to deal with this outside. Like, this is just what we're going to do. Like, I don't want to hear what you've got to say. I'm going to be outside. I'll see you outside. And he's just like, Zab, like, just come on. And at that, like, at the lowest point and the deepest point of his humiliation, he's like, don't worry about it, just play it.
That is I've seen one of those. I don't know if it's the same thing in a barbershop, and I can't remember who it was, but it was fucking amazing because
I think we should do it with like Denzel. We should do it with like Denz and Dan.
That would be sick. Oh man, fucking love that. Oh, Charlie Zelenoff would be up for it. Fucking
shout out Charlie. Right, he back and forth, early doors, middle round. You know, Floyd is pulling away. There was a legitimate knockdown that didn't get counted.
Yeah.
You know, Judah just caught him with a very clean shot, caught him off balance. It is what it is. As Floyd really started to turn it up, Zab reverted back to his darker ways and slammed him in the shit. Proper low blow. Now, I don't remember if there was much of an escalation between the low blow and Roger jumping into the ring, because I don't think it was.
Was there in an instant around the apron, and fucking he was in.
All right. So you got Rog, and then you got Zab's trainer, who's his dad, Yoel, who's more insane than Zab for sure, equally as insane as Rog, and they just beeline at each other Floyd very smartly goes to the corner where no one is. Zab is in the thick of it. Zab's having rows with people. He's having fist fights during a fist fight, bless him. So this gets cleared. Roger is removed from the stadium. Yoel wasn't, though, was he? Which I thought was a bit naughty.
Yeah, strong. But Zab later gets banned, so I guess swings.
Yeah, for his, Floyd continues to win the fight with Leonard and what's his name? Angel, the handman.
Yeah, Angel. And Rog got a year ban for that.
Yeah. Do you remember the 24/7? I remember what I did. I'm very sorry about what I did. I won't do what I did again. And then my nephew get hit in the balls, then I'm gonna stab motherfucker, but I will not do that again, Your Honor. It was just like in the shittest beige suit you've ever seen. It was just amazing. Shout out, Roger. All right. There is one more fight after this one, which is he fights Baldomir. I never understood how that fight got made, other than they started mugging him off because he couldn't afford the sanctioning fees to keep all the belts. So the IBF belt that he fought Zab Judah for was given back to Zab Judah, who could afford to keep it and to keep his world champion title. It was a fucked up situation.
Yeah.
Okay. Floyd again hurt his hand mid rounds.
Yeah.
And just cruised.
Yeah. Third lineal after that too.
Yep. And he's I think that's the first fight of him under Mayweather Promotions. He had left Bob at this point.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, that was the first
we're heading
one.
into De La Hoya territory, and that's where he's like, "Fuck you, Bob," and
in it comes,
mate.
Oscar,
make it rain, cash.
So he fights Oscar De La Hoya, the pay-per-view king. He has, I mean, look, the Oscar that we know now is the equivalent of the Hangover Tyson, right?
Yes.
The Oscar that we hear now, doing facials on Snapchat, doing his energy, like I'm feeling energized and my vibrations are fucking quartz and I've got a crystal in my anus and like whatever. Do your business. That's not Oscar. Oscar was a matinee star looking destroyer. Also, his gum shields were as big as the mini belts behind you. Do you remember how big that dude's like? He had not just the double gum shields.
Got to protect the moneymaker.
But like, they were so big. It's like putting a phone in your mouth. Anyway,
niche.
That was a sport-changing event in my opinion. It changed pay-per-view.
100.
It changed promotion. It changed the build-up. They did an international press tour. They won. Like Floyd at this point has, from day one, accepted that he's
cultural appropriation of the massive one. Floyd just comes out rocking a sombrero and a Mexican.
Yeah, but like, you know, Roger used to do that.
That's when he started jacking the Mexican holidays, which I thought
I know that was powerful, wasn't it?
Genius. Like he's the biggest star. They love boxing. What are you going to do? But when he started taking it off Canelo, I was like, ooh.
You can have September. Oh wait, I got that one as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
But one thing for people that we all get frustrated when, you know, purse bids and when you're like, oh, why won't you accept this amount of money? This is an example of where Floyd was the B-side. And it's like,
and he knew
in the army, you know, the people, you know, they get a haze and all that. When they get to, they want to do it back. And the money thing is like that. Like Canelo made next to fuck all when he fought Mayweather. Now he makes a line show and he's like, you motherfuckers fight for fuck all. I'm going to take the cash. When you've got, you know, Fury saying it with what, it'll just keep happening. And this is a very good example of that, where Floyd made the highest of his career, but he made fuck all compared to Oscar.
Yeah, for sure. And what also should be mentioned, that this time, up until that fight, Oscar was actually trained by Floyd Sr. and had been for 6 years. Like the complete resurgence of his career, he put down to Senior. They were a dream duo, them two. Floyd Sr. asked for $2 million to corner him against his own son. And Oscar said no. And then Oscar got in Freddie Roach, which it's probably started the beef between Senior and Freddie the coach, Joe Croach, Roach, whatever. Like they just slammed each other constantly when it was miserable. It was a really fun build up because that was the start of the 24/7. You got to see like Oscar forgetting his fucking ring. You got to see Floyd doing Floyd stuff, but more training than balling out, like in the later 24/7. Like it was, you could see that new young ideas coming from, I'm guessing, Mayweather Promotions and the Mayweather side were actually kind of hyping it up. Like, I remember being on the trade floors at that point, and I remember the assistants of the trade floors being taken to Vegas to that fight by some of the traders, and I was like, I'll suck you off for fucking ticket for Floyd. Right, if like, oh, come on. Hey, yeah, but they were hyped about it and they knew about it, and that was probably one of the first ones in a long time where people that weren't boxing fans were fans. They wanted to know what was going to happen in this fight. Everyone knew Oscar.
Yeah,
Oscar's a golden boy. Even if you just London, know the name.
The pubs were open at that time. This is like 5 a.m. Like, I went straight from that fight because we had to study on the weekends, straight to college after that. Got breakfast and I had to go straight to college, steaming. But yeah, the place was rammed, and that just shows, we're in London. This is
monumental event,
huge, the biggest at this time. Like, this is number 1 for pay-per-view.
Yep.
So if you're now thinking, I get Floyd, but Oscar, the crackhead, back in the day, Oscar, the golden boy, very different animal. Like
Oscar for sure gets his own episode, like for sure, and it would be rude not to. That fight, though, you could quite comfortably have seen them giving the nod to Oscar, especially with Oscar being the star, with everything else going. Yeah. It wasn't like Floyd won. There's no, you can watch that film 10 times and you can say it's close, but Floyd won. But it was also close enough for them to have done it a little bit filth. And I'm very surprised that it didn't. And I think if Oscar hadn't had quite a few of those in the years of his career,
that would have been one
plus or against, like that, probably it just the gods aligned properly at that point. So Floyd beat Oscar in a very razor thin split decision, but he nicks his new world title in a new weight class
and becomes the man.
And becomes the Dom, right? That's where Money Mayweather exists and appears.
And he's gone up in weight for that as well. So
yeah. At this time, there are a lot of British fans. We're all backing Ricky Hatton. Ricky Hatton has just absolutely annihilated Castillo. Not the Castillo of old. This is a Castillo at 140. This is a Castillo that's still dangerous. Still was a campaigning active pro. He was still world level, right? He would be at this stage that Hatton fought him, I would say probably about where they would be looking for an opponent of Conor Ben-esque levels. Big name, ex-world champion, can still be a world champion on any given night, definitely on the decline. Now, Hatton had been calling him out, and Floyd is adamant that he asked to fight Hatton in England, and Ricky's dad, Ray, who was his manager at the time, said, he's not ready for you yet. Call us back in a couple of years. Right? It was an enormous event, that one. Like, that done 1.5 or 1.15 million pay-per-views in the UK alone. That's massive for a UK pay-per-view. Huge. All of the pubs, all of the casinos, all of the closed circuit areas, all of the weigh-ins. It was just, there's only one Ricky Hatton, constant. And during the press tours, didn't matter.
And it left an impression on Floyd because that's why he comes here so much. That's why he wants to promote things. It's a big reason why the Conor thing happened, because he knows the British fans, the support's there. And for that fight, fuck, man, they turned up.
They really did. And listen, the fight is the fight. Like, Floyd was always going to win that fight. It was a masterclass. Early, like round one, round two. Okay, Floyd's having a little look, having a little bit of a download. Ricky was always supremely conditioned. He was always strong. He was always a big puncher. And he was always just teak tough. So it was always going to be a good fight, as well as the only time we've seen Floyd in any sort of near loss situation other than Oscar was against a very Ricky Hatton-esque style fighter in Castillo. And that was for a little while. Do you remember how they always thought it was like southpaws and pressure? And if you can find a pressure punch in southpaw, which they did later, and that went terribly, but whatever, that it was all going to be all right. Joe, as a British Hatton fan, did Cortez involve himself a little bit more than he should? Maybe, but you know, like Floyd was always very adamant about non-rough fights, and when fights got rough, he got equally rough, and then it stopped.
Yep.
But with rough fighters, you know, you're trying to do that. So, you know, if you are the A side, if you are the power player, and it's Joe Cortez, he's as famous as any person ever to be like a non-fighter in boxing. Maybe he got swayed a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah.
Beautiful stoppage though,
mate.
I mean, shout out for Ricky to get up the first time.
Yeah. The way he walked him into those check hooks by and the way he breaks down is like, look, he's front footed fighter. He was coming out, but you can see his rear foot turning when you're like, fuck, man. Like, do you remember when he was backing up and he'd launch forward with the right hand first? You just see his foot turn and it's like, oh shit, it's on. Boom. And then he'd be out of there and then walked him back. That Cuban check, make him go off the turnbuckle into the, poetry in motion.
That fight was the first time that I thought that Floyd was a lot like power punching. Like it wasn't he's a hurtful puncher.
Yeah, it's not a one-hitter quitter.
No, he's a hurtful puncher. But I always thought he's stronger than he looks. And then when I saw him like manhandling Ricky, who was always very widely known of being an absolute tank, I was like, this geezer's a fucking freak.
Yeah.
Like he could, and he was manhandling. Every time Ricky would try and tie up and do work on ropes or in close, you know, he got the forearm and he got shoved and he got pieced.
Yeah.
Absolutely pieced. Right. Destroys Ricky.
We haven't even touched on, you know, like the shoulder roll defense. He uses elbows in the sternum, forearm, and like what you see any guy that doesn't box try and copy and like they're tucking one arm. That ain't it.
I will say this because he is from Michigan and that style is from Michigan. It's not from Philadelphia. It's not the Philly shell. It irks me, Streets. It irks me still. And even like I think Eric Kelly was putting something up that this is the Philly style, which is like the
cross arm. Yeah. And it's like because
self-hug.
It goes like you watch Ken Norton, you watch Frazier, and they're going to alternate from the cross arm guard, they're going to go to the shoulder roll, and then they're going to be dipping, and that's the old thing. And it comes from, you know, Sandy Sadler's thing. I actually wrote articles, but he fucking used to write words and shit. Yeah. About it.
Gay.
Yeah, right. Put a link somewhere. But yeah, it's kind of like tracks the progress. But yeah, 100% right. And I think the Philly shell came from like they put it in a computer game and people latch onto that.
It was in fight.
Whatever. You know, like just don't tuck your arm under you. Like watch Floyd do it. Look at the little nuances. It's genius. The economy of motion of just taking it on the shoulder, on the glove, little head movements. He made people so uncomfortable. And throughout his career, we're getting into like Hatton, devastating puncher. And it's just like they get more and more frustrated because they can't fucking hit him. And he's so economical. And like we said, a big reason why he can throw so many punches, he doesn't waste anything. There's no fat on anything he does. And
he's also supremely conditioned. So even if there is like, I think it was like one of the epilogues later in his career of Andre Berto. And Andre Berto was saying about how weird it was just to have him breathing. Like he said he would like tie you up and you can hear him like stomach breathing like a fucking Tibetan monk. Right. And it was just weird he's never been in there with anyone. But then like his control of his own energy is one of his greatest gifts. Control of his own energy, obviously his speed, but his eyes, his gauge of distance is it's like second to none. He must see things in slow motion.
With Connor, where Connor flicks at and he just like it just touches his nose while he's moving forward. It's not like I know this is my range. And it's like I know my range so much that this is my range.
So he beats Hatton, and
does he?
He really does. And basically at that point, it's just like there's nothing left for me to do. I've done it, and you lot hated me. So you know what? Maybe you'll appreciate me when I'm gone. And he goes. He retires. Ironically, after that fight, Floyd Sr. started to train Ricky. Weird.
Yeah.
Comes back nearly 2 years later and fights
Juan Manuel.
He's on the wall, the geezer. Like Dinamita, no joke.
Legend.
Do you remember the after fight interview of him where he insisted on being on the mic? They didn't even want him on the teleconference, but he came down and he said that basically, tonight I lost. It is the first time I've lost. I've never lost before, but he beat me. And this is someone that, you know, like all of his losses were like unbelievably controversial.
Yes.
You know, and he was a devout B-side. And for him to get off and say, this geezer beat me, like, and he did. 120, 107 across the board. Like, it was a complete shutout against a pound for pound elite of the elite fighter.
And like, it's like he sees the fucking future.
Yep.
That pull counter hit to roll. And there's a bit where like Juan Manuel throws almost like kind of stirring the pot. They kind of arm like two right, which is rare enough in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Floyd, and there's another one. It's like, how the fuck are you double rolling this shit? Incredible.
Also, what should be noted, and probably about 25 minutes ago, obviously Manny Pacquiao exists in this time.
Yeah.
And all through this period, right, Manny is the name that has been coming through since he had his own Oscar experience, right? After that, they really start banging. So like when Manny starts hanging around like the 147s and the 140s, they're mentioning him a lot. And they always say that they always made it out like Floyd was ducking. And I don't think he has ever ducked anyone because it doesn't fit with the person, that it doesn't fit with even the character that he's conjured. Yeah, I will fight you and I'll destroy you. I'll destroy you at fucking chess. I'll destroy you at PlayStation. You want to do a 10K, you're getting smashed. Like, I will just crush you. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Irrelevant. I just think they just used one side as the good guy.
The narrative. I do, if I'm 100% honest, like this kind of, I see Floyd as the Sun Tzu. You know, like he's really prepared for the art of war, and he knows the style, or knew the style that Manny fought, and that takes a lot out of you. So I think he always knew that fight was going to happen, but he also knew there were so many murderers, and it's like, you know, you keep having these tough fights. It's like the same when at the time when AJ, I can't remember the exact thing, but it was like Fury was going to fight Wilder, and then maybe, you know, it was like.
It was like Wilder and then like fucking Wyatt.
Do you remember though? There were talks of it being
Del Boy twice, AJ twice, and then Del Boy, and then it was just like, all right, cool. I know what you're saying.
Like, there's a potential for a lot of damage there, you know, and it's just like with Pacquiao, it's like there was the potential for like, I'm definitely going to fight you. I know I'm going to beat you, but I'm also going to put myself in the position where I'm always going to be the most prepared person there. Yeah. So I also
probably fucking hated him. Yes. Like, you're talking about the HBO darling when you've already got your darling and you're talking to him right now.
And I mean, I think that fucked Khan for a lot. Like, Khan talked himself out of shit.
He's still doing an interview now about fighting Floyd.
I saw that. Call him a pussy in the... Oh, mate. But
behave.
Also, a few fighters Floyd actually called out that never happened, which would have been fucking sick. So Prince Nassim, when he was in this, that would have been incredible. Costa Zoo would have been banging. Margarito, you know.
I mean, he was always very open about Margarito. He always like he said, "I'll fight him if you lot want me to fight him, but there's something off with him." Yeah. Right? And he always said the same stuff about Manny. And to be fair, the stuff with Manny does make a lot of sense. His head is bigger than it should be, and it continued to grow into his 30s. And like, look, we've got questions, and it's not normal. Yes, his KO rate diminished, but the power was always there. Yeah, and this geezer started at like a 4-year-old's body weight, whatever. Anyway, so Marquez destroys him bad, and you know, they start talking about that Marquez is a career lightweight and below lightweight, and they again don't give him his dues. Okay,
Mayweather destroys Marquez.
Yeah, Mayweather destroys. Did I say the other way? My bad.
Said Marquez destroyed him. I'm like, are we?
Oh wait, yeah.
Marquez, Pacquiao.
Mayweather destroyed Marquez.
Yeah.
Floyd is now, you know, he's back. He's talking all of the noise. The man that was known as the most avoided man in the division, Margarito, had just been absolutely and utterly destroyed by Shane Mosley.
Sugar!
The Sugar Man is on the ascent. He is always said that
Another
he's
one
always ready to
deserves an
fight
ep.
Floyd, for sure. I've tried a few times to get him on.
That'd be so good. He's so articulate too. I love hearing him.
He is,
talk.
and I want to hear him speak about his fashions as well, because he puts some interesting shit on his Instagram where he's in like blankets and stuff. Powerful.
You get lost in them eyes too, man.
Yeah, it's a bit long, isn't it? So the fight with Mosley, the build up to that is probably the best build up of a fight that I can remember. The 24/7, it was the best 24/7. They had a little bit of a push. Shane wasn't scared. You know, he spoke very matter of fact. My arms are longer than his. I hit just as hard as I'm just as fast. I'm just as experienced. I'm just as this. And Shane, he really was.
Like, he's another one that fought everybody.
He's you know, champion at lightweight, champion at, he didn't do light welter, he did welter, light middle, and middle as well.
I remember, was it Knockout Kings or whatever, the computer game, and he did the motion capture for like Ali and all the fighters.
Yeah, he's a very good, I mean, like Oscar used him as a sparring partner who's his friend for Floyd because he can emulate that style very well, because it's just whatever. The most hurt we've ever seen Floyd is that fight.
Yes.
Right? And the most impressive performance probably of his career has to be that fight, because towards the end of the round 2, when he got like badly hurt, I don't know how he managed to stay up both times. Both times,
shit.
Yeah, he gets hit high on the head and his legs just give out, and he stops like Matrix style, Mission Impossible, nose to the floor shit, comes back up. And towards the end of the round, he's walking Mosley down, sits down with his corner. And like, just all right, done. No worries. This
happened twice in that round. Like, he ate 2 of them fucking shots, and just
from a power puncher.
Yeah.
Right. His legs were gone. Couldn't walk. Like, found himself going to the ropes.
White boy, you see Mosley against Margarito. Do you remember that stop? He hit him. Well, that was brutality.
He beat him like he was trying to kill him, because he had attempted to try and kill him in return. Like, he was pissed.
Yeah, as you fucking would be. That was such bittersweet vengeance. Like,
yeah, it's one of the best ones. But from that moment on, it was a nigh-on shutout. Like, Shane could do nothing. And if you were a Shane fan, that must have been brutes to watch, because you just saw like Shane's soul get taken. Like, there was just nothing that he could do. And even afterwards, it was just like, he didn't really even have much to say, did he? He was just like, great fight. Like, one of the best ones of the era.
Yeah.
Sensational.
Much better than the Pacquiao Mosley. That was like 2 pals just having a light spar.
That was a weird one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because like, he got absolutely and utterly starched, and then he let him up and just let him just like, all right. Okay. Yeah. And then like, Shane is another one for excuses, because that Pacquiao fight, he puts down to his boots, doesn't he? That caused him a blister, and you're like, let's not. Don't do this. You're hurting things now.
Yeah.
Okay. Victor Ortiz was the next fight. A pressure fighting, young, explosive southpaw. And Mexican. So you've ticked off all of these things. Again, Victor, we will never know how good he could have been, because Victor had all of the attributes, all of the skill, all of the hunger. Just, it's harsh to say, he didn't really have the heart, and he self-sabotaged.
Yeah.
So that fight was a classic sunning, right? Victor wasn't doing bad, Lee, but the writing was on the wall. This was going to be a late stoppage, probably similar to Hatton, maybe a little bit worse. Maybe Victor was going to gas. Who knew? Victor got frustrated and then gave it the flying rhino and headbutted Floyd in the mouth. Referee, it was bad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, there's accidental butts. He lifted himself off the floor.
Yeah, he jumped into him.
Yeah.
Badly jumped into him. Ref stops it for a minute.
And Floyd took that fucking well, to be fair. A flying headbutt.
Took it all right. Like, the first touch, yes. So they touched gloves. I'm sorry. Victor's getting run around the ring, taking a point off, son. He's like, oh, yeah, sick. Yeah, I suppose so. I butted him.
Dragging him around the ring and Floyd.
Yeah, and Floyd. But also, he's like, touched him and apologized. And then they've semi-embraced. And then, for God knows what reason, Victor goes to just stay there after the end of the embrace. And then Floyd just coofs him. Two-piece. But.
2-piece.
Just literally a classic look straight, douche, done. Full
While
five over.
Victor's looking at the ref, like the
Yeah,
first
like,
one, he's like,
yeah,
you gotta do that.
No, but you messed up. And I don't think he was that out of order, if I'm honest.
Yeah, he's just been headbutt. Like, I was worried at the time. I'm like, oh fuck, if this is because this is post Tyson end of career where he's putting people in arm bars, he's biting people. It's just like you're watching like this, like reaching around the ref to get a few extra shots on Zavaresi. You're like, oh fuck, and you're like, is this going to be a shit show? Is this going to be a disqualification? Is it going to be a rematch? What is all this? But protect yourself at all times, and that was an all time. He wasn't protected. Yeah. I mean, 100 though on the ref, like fucking separate them.
Yeah.
And say, let's go. Don't just have them lingering. And while you're having a conversation outside the ring when they're in striking distance.
So at this time, he's even more hated because they all said that he shouldn't have done that. Everyone else, he had a proper bust up on that one with Larry Merchant in it, where Larry says, if I was fucking 50 years younger, I'd fight you. He's like, I am doing anything. You ain't doing anything. Floyd's got a bunch of money, like obscene money. And he's got some domestic extracurricular issues going on. And Floyd is going to take a little break from boxing. But they allow the state of Nevada, they allow, because of how much Floyd obviously pays in Rev and stuff like that. They're like, you can just do another fight and then you can go and do your bit.
Yeah. And
he fights Miguel Cotto. And
big.
It was a fucking banger. Like that's another one of those fights. That's like a Luke Campbell Loma fight where the scores do not reflect the fight. Floyd probably won 10 of the 12 rounds, maybe 11 of the 12 rounds, maybe every round.
He made him work for every second of that.
I think that was his hardest fight.
Yep.
I think that was the most banged up we've seen him, the hardest he's had to fight. And like, again, Cotto's an astonishing fighter. He's a Hall of Famer, but I think he's
for sure on him as well, because it's just
one of my favorites.
G's up from the feet up, man. Like fucking hell. That guy, heart of a warrior for, we've said it before, but these guys truly fought everybody.
Yeah. Like exactly. He got chunks knocked out of him by Margarito with loaded gloves. He got badly banged up by Manny Pacquiao when no one had ever done that to him before. And a whole new way.
Canelo, he's fought Mayweather. We'll do it.
Everyone. That fight was phenomenal. The Cotto Mayweather fight, I think, is on DAZN if you have it in the archive. If not, there's for sure 100 streams of it on YouTube.
And it's definitely worth a watch.
It's definitely worth watching. So you're seeing it's a high pace pressure fight, counter punch from two. Like
Cotto just started working with Pedro Diaz there, and what they were doing on the punch on the break and the angles. High hand for Cotto, it worked beautifully. Like it was lovely.
It was a great fight, and it was a great performance, right? And it just
and you see too, you watch it. So much of Floyd you've got to see in slow mo to appreciate. But because of the way Cotto was holding his hand, you just see Floyd like change the angle of the shot and loop around his hand. So like when he clears, you're like, that is poetry, man.
I mean, the story of Floyd Mayweather's career is that whoever you put in front, he does know the way to beat them. Right. And time is the thing that stops him from doing it or not. And he never ran out of time. Like he's getting old now, but he's also not fighting now.
Yeah.
There's like, this is what, like when we started the first question, like, where do you have him? Because he has to be top 5. He literally has to be,
sure.
He's 50, like he finished 50-0. We've never seen him really come close. Like, you've seen close fights. You've never seen a fight where you look to that and you've gone, he lost that fight.
He lost. Yeah.
There's not. So he takes a year off for many reasons. Fine.
Grows some hair.
Fights Robert Guerrero. Now he's left HBO as well.
Yep.
He's on Showtime. That pretty was a big deal. That. So he's on Showtime. And Guerrero, like, it was more fun with the build-up between the dads, weren't it?
Oh, yeah. Ruben Guerrero is fucking insane.
But so Senior.
Yeah.
They're just both mental. Like them two should have a reality. Them two should have a reality TV show where they do like Survivor or Naked and Afraid or other reality TV shows together.
Bro, Guerrero's dad and fuck, who did he fight? Danny Garcia's dad.
Yeah,
that
was terrible, wasn't it?
Oh,
Exactly. But Robert Guerrero, in his own right, is a very, very good lightweight.
Yep.
And a quality fighter. Yeah, quality Southpaw, Mexican, boxer, puncher. Maybe
the way Floyd got out, that's another one. Watch that shit. Just watch the highlights, watch the slow-mo, see how Floyd exits just watching the punches zing by it. Beautiful.
He couldn't do anything. And that was, again, a world-class fighter, a touted fighter. I mean, let's not forget, that's the same Robert Guerrero that they were saying to fight Conor Benn, who's on another mention just now for some reason. I don't know why, but it's the same Robert Guerrero, right? So if he was good enough to fight Floyd, burn him down a bit, he's definitely good enough to fight a prospect.
Yeah.
It was a fine performance. It was a fine return back to Showtime. It was a fine return back for Floyd after prison. And in comes Canelo.
Saul.
Canelo was what, 42-0 at that point. He was 23, very young. But he was
42-0, 23 years old.
And they brought him in because at this point, everyone's paying to see Money Mayweather gets beat, get hurt, lose.
And this is the guy. Like, even though he's so young, this is
the guy.
This is the guy. In fairness, you can see why. Like, because he has improved exponentially, but still back then, he was amazing.
And at this point, he's still very close with Oscar. Oscar is, 2 rounds from beating Floyd. Oscar put in a great performance. Oscar's going to.
Then he gave him the blueprint to beat him.
Exactly. Of course they did. Strong, hungry, young champion. Sure. Listen, he fucking annihilated Canelo. Like it was like the worst part of that performance. Yes, what I was about to say. The worst part of that performance was that one of the judges gave it a draw, where even the Canelo lot were like, "Really? All right." A complete virtuoso masterclass in every way, and
it was like boxing tricks.
Yeah,
look up the master's tricks. Floyd did all of them. The double glove, his control of everything.
Like, they always said about his feather fists and how he can't punch and stuff like that, but like no one really tried to walk him down, and if they did, they ended up stopped. And like someone like a Canelo, we've seen, you're more you're more spiteful when you're younger. You're more measured as you get older.
Yeah.
If he saw anything that he could have swung and done something to Floyd with that night, he would have tried it.
And that's the thing. It doesn't have to be the hardest thing in the world. It just has to interrupt the rhythm. And Floyd was the master at not letting people settle down into a rhythm at all. And he can see what's coming. So before they've even had a chance to really finalize the thought, he stops and doing it, which instinctively, straight away, your game plan goes out the window. You don't have a game plan because what you're doing, he's seeing happen. You're like, this isn't working. I need something else. Mm-hmm. And clearly you haven't rehearsed that enough. And then he just goes through the letters and then you're at your fucking Z plan. And you're like, this isn't how I thought my day was going to go. So at Loma, that's why they quit in the corner. They're just like, fuck this. This isn't how I thought.
This is not. Right. That Canelo fight should have been... That should have been enough if you were just to watch this as a film, as a step back, like a film study of the fighter. That should be enough to have like tick, tick, tick. Come on, the geezer's the man. Come on, right? Even with that, he was
almost 40 years old.
Yeah, I mean, 36, and he'd done a couple of stints inside, and he'd been a pro since '96, and his hands are in tatters, and his shoulders in tatters, and he's got issues with his dad. His fucking Uncle Roger at this point he got that sugar, as they call it. He's getting pretty sick with diabetes. And, he's got a lot on. And this superstar that they're bringing in, why not? Sure.
And that was genius because not only did Mayweather control all the generations that this future one, he's still got that. Look, there's an L next to his name. That guy that's beaten all your champs. And he can say, which he does all the time, it's like, you motherfuckers think Canelo, I made that shit easy. Like that was easy. And
he did.
True.
And he really did. Then he fights Chico Maidana.
You gotta love Maidana. What a fucking G. And that first fight, woo boy.
Yeah, but again, that was another one that I didn't feel it was close.
Listen, for what I thought was going to happen, Maidana had a lot of success. Like
I'm with you on that.
And it just shows that like sometimes you just have to mean mug. Like the success he had, that was just unorthodox. Like you can't prepare for them shots because Maidana doesn't even know he's going to throw it. He's just like, I'm fucking swinging. Like it was like Del Boy when he fought Usyk. He's like, I'm going to hit something. It might be a leg, might be an ear. I'm going to hit something. Rematch. Well, I mean, I'm fast forwarding a bit, but he tries to box him with, I sound like a broken record with this, but it is the perfect example. There's a point where you're not going to outbox that person. No. Like AJ is not going to learn the skills to outbox Usyk. That will not happen. It has to be another variable. It has to be, you know, him impose a certain will. But Maidana, I thought for how it looked going in, he's not the quickest of feet. He's got dynamite in his hands, but so is everybody that Floyd fought. And then you got to hit someone for that power to mean anything.
He did the best at roughing him up. Of the opponents that he had, Maidana.
Yeah, and we just talked about how Floyd takes people out of the game plan. Maidana was the first one that he was rattling Floyd. Like he was taking him out of his comfort zone. Yeah.
It was the second fight, wasn't it, where he landed that epic, like the one that there's a meme where they're like, it's one of his teeth, and it's not one of his teeth. But,
yeah.
But even then, like again, Floyd's chin, completely underrated. Yeah. And that chin is going to be amplified, 3-4-fold if you see everything coming in and you've still moved that little bit just to take anything off. Like it's no secret. And, second time, he just shut shit down.
I mean, it's worth saying for the nuances that those people that box, when you watch Floyd do a pull counter, if a punch is coming, most people instinctively going to move outside of the shot. Floyd split entries. He always moves his head on the inside of the shot and punches over as they're retracting. The timing on that is delicious.
Yep. It's, again, Virtuoso. He's a magician. Then we finally get the Manny fight. Finally. Yes. So it is the biggest fight that there's ever been.
And sorry, CompuBox showed Maidana did hit Mayweather the most he's ever been hit in any of his fights.
There you go. And even then, I didn't think it was close. That was the one that had the glove scandal, and then the second time around, it was all fine.
Mate, they were naughty. Like those Everlast MX ones, it looked like Maidana had driven over them in a semi. And Floyd's like,
they were fucked. Yeah, no, come on, mate. These are the ones at the bottom with the bin, aren't they, at the gym? What are you doing? Right, the Manny fight.
Do you remember when he got bit on his hand? That was weird.
Yeah.
How are you going to bite someone with a mouth guard in through a glove? Like,
to be fair, I didn't really want to talk about it. It's not a finest moment, and I don't really know. I don't understand what that was or what that was about, or even what was going on in that.
I think, like like I said, he's Sun Tzu. So it's like, if you're going to do any sort of dirty tactics, I'm going to pull you up on every one of them.
Yeah,
that's why I love Gutty when he fought Mickey Ward. And Ward was like holding onto his arm, and Gutty looks at the ref for a second. He's like, he's just like, puts his chin in and says, bum, 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 straight back to business. He's like, I'm not fucking wasting time complaining. Let's have it.
Let's just do this. Right. The Manny fight. Maybe 6 years too late, 7 years too late.
7 years, yep.
Yeah. Still a good fight. It was a fantastic event. Great build up. Biggest pay-per-view of all time. And Floyd, I thought comfortably beat him. Like he got landed on twice.
Yeah, round 3 was like a big spurt for Pacquiao. And what not enough people give credit for is going back to your thing about people saying Floyd was pillow-fisted.
Yeah,
Manny obviously has that stuttering attack. Yeah, and the first round he eats a shot, and you can see it change. It puts him on his heels.
Yeah,
and that's what Floyd does. Is that no? Yep. Like it'll take your game plan, and that was always going to be when people complain about the fight. And I love Manny, but that was how Floyd was going to fight. If it was going to be anything different, it was up to Manny to impose that, and he just couldn't. Yep. You can't. Like
That's exactly what it is. It was with someone like a Manny, you knew that it was going to be a complete shutdown from the Mayweather side, because this guy, this is the guy that they've been talking about for all of these years. This is the guy they just keep saying, no matter what I do, they just say this guy. But then when after this guy, who's the next guy? Like you just keep throwing up these people, and it's just like, now what? I didn't really like my shoulder was hurt from Manny after the fight, because it didn't look that way. But whatever. For the size of the event, the pressure, everything on there, that's probably the biggest performance from either one of them.
Crushing. Look, it's never going to live up to the expectations. No. It definitely didn't. There was a lot at stake. You know, it's one of those ones where you can say, I mean, I fucking flew to Vegas for it. So if you're like, oh, I woke up.
You know what's fucked up now? Is that there's like memes popping up on Tinternet of like Floyd and Manny next to each other, back like what it was before, but now they're both done with who had the better career. And you're like, well, I didn't know this was still a thing.
Yeah.
I thought this got quashed now, because all right, fine. Finishes up his boxing career, against Andre Berto. Now, Andre Berto was kind of like sweep up as far as I saw it, because there was a period where Berto was the heir apparent to that division, and they wanted him to fight Floyd at all costs, while Floyd was still like peak Floyd.
Yeah.
But he ran into Victor Ortiz, he ran into Collazo, he had a couple of really tough fights, and then
there was a Haley earthquake as well, because he was right in the mix.
Yep. He was supposed to fight Mosley, he was supposed to fight a bunch of people, it's just what it is. And I just saw that as a sweep.
Ortiz, Berto, obviously the first one, not the second one. Fucking what a fight that was.
Uppercut. But that was the fight that gave, I think that was the fight that gave Ortiz the fight, and Berto. Yeah, listen, it was a snoozer. It was just Floyd like doing a victory lap and punching.
Yeah, best bet is him sticking his tongue out at his Berto's missus and
giving it back the finger. She's a piece. Then he retires again, 49-0, living his best life, flourishing.
Equal with Marciano's record.
Yep. Now I don't really know how it came to be that it was just like, you're the biggest in that sport, I'm the biggest in this sport, let's just talk cash, right? There was no real reason for it. And when you
I love how he tried to sell it like he's never been beaten in striking, like his losses have been for, it's just like, okay,
still sales tactics 101, Gary V shit. Have you tried winning? Yeah.
Always. I mean, this is still a debut fighter against,
that's what I was about to say. You're talking about someone that's 49-0 and 5-weight world champ, like the best of his generation.
I mean, let's not get it twisted, because we're not just dick riding here. If Mayweather went in the cage, that doesn't last a minute.
Ruined. He just gets ruined. He gets his arms pulled off, and that's how you.
But that's not what it was.
No. So he fights Conor McGregor, and that's got to be the biggest promoted fight of all time.
Yeah.
Like, remember, like that. They had
the numbers it did. That's a debut fighter.
Yeah,
against one of the best ever. Number 2.
Do you remember there was like sub stories and conspiracies, and like the Paulie stuff was going on, and
bro, they were selling out fucking the weigh-ins and shit, like all the conferences and stuff.
And then basically Floyd comes out in a bank robber's uniform, because he's stealing the bag off of all of these. Mate, be honest with me. How many of your MMA loving pals was like, this is going to be something.
Sure, loads.
I don't understand. I never understood.
They're like, no, you don't understand that left hand. I'm like, he's never come across anything remotely like it.
I just didn't. I didn't understand the pretty fucking punchy views that Conor was this like
and
dynamite
also,
puncher. You just like does he punch harder than Chico for the size? Does he punch harder than Maidana? Does he punch harder than Canelo? Cotto? Like, no, probably not.
Yeah, and I don't want to burst bubbles. I don't want to talk shit. Obviously, Conor is
phenomenal fighter.
But let's calm down a bit with. But he did more than Pacquiao. He did more than. Listen, Mayweather even said, I owed people for the Pacquiao fight. They wanted entertainment Floyd knew that fight was his, no matter what the fuck he did. Like, this is a guy coming in to my territory. I own this shit. So I'm going to put my hands up, I'm going to walk him down. Yeah, he's going to land some shot. And he did. He landed that uppercut was beautiful. Great shot. He wasn't expecting that one. But for the rest of it, all the success, Floyd never, find me a Floyd fight where he fights like that. That was hard to say that. So it's fucking hell. A lot of F's. He don't do that. No. He didn't need to do that. He wanted to do that. He wanted to make it exciting. That fight was his whenever the fuck he wanted to. If he wanted to just pull counter, miss, make him pay, he would have.
Yeah, there's no fun in that now, is there?
No.
So look, he beats McGregor, as you would expect. Swans off. He's fought a couple more times since. Sort of.
Fucked up tension in a exhibition.
Yeah. Bad tension in an exhibition, which was a very strange affair a couple of years ago on New Year's Eve. And then he...
Can we not even...
Yeah, then he fought Logan Paul, which he said was fun. And it probably was fun. And he probably had a great time and all of that stuff. It was weird. And I'm sure we'll see him do another exhibition at some point pretty soon. No, we're not going to talk money kicks. We're not doing that. That's a Sheikh's son who's paying Floyd to fight him on top of the Burj Khalifa. It's so many things, and Floyd secured a bag, right? Secured a bag. I think that it's fair to say he's the greatest of the modern era. Yeah. Undoubtedly, he has a place against anyone in the weight divisions that he fights in. You put him up there with anyone, like and
we are going to
super featherweight, lightweight, Floyd and Naz, astonishing, Floyd Morales, astonishing, Barrera, all of those boys. And it just like, that's not even without Loma now. Like, imagine Floyd and Loma.
Duran.
Oh, crazy. Like, they're just mental fights. Like, and he showed that not only is he the best for his skill set, the heart's there. He will fight like that. That was always the thing that always seemed a little bit weird when you was just like, can he like have it though? And you're like, he must be able to fucking have it. Like, there just can't not be that guy, right? And every time he needed to prove it, he did.
Yep. And a lot of time you didn't see it's because he didn't need it. Like, he's so good at controlling, dictating terms that it just doesn't get to that, which is incredible.
Do you think he's more loved now than like the Canelo era?
Yeah,
he's starting to get.
Floyd is for sure one of the, and you could tell while he was fighting, he's going to be one of those guys that he's going to need to be gone for people to truly appreciate what it was. And you could see it when he like kind of seemed like he was retired. You could see people like, oh fuck, actually, there's a bit of a hole here now. Yeah,
I mean, like you know, you're talking about a good sparring session from Errol Spence makes Errol Spence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Errol Spence becomes a thing from landing a good shot on Mayweather. Like, Mayweather, he's the Don. He's just the Don. That's all you can say. Undefeated, 50-0, just fucking rinsing it. I would love to know more about the financial situations, because he does spend, the boy.
Oh, he loves that. He's in the SEC. Fucking did him for something with DJ Khaled or something for some coin trade up.
Sure. I'm sure that will be a wonderful success. Another one. And shout out to DJ Khaled. I don't know what any of that stuff means, but I just want to know that he don't burn out his cash.
Yeah. Well,
because if someone's going to be able to burn through nearly a billion, it looks like he's having a good go at it, to be honest. Well, let's hope not. And thank you all for joining us on Story Time on Sunday.
Powerful ep.
Shout out Floyd, TBE, TMT. I would really like to go to the Mayweather gym, and I would like you to thank me. Thank you very much.
Fuck yeah. Road trip.
Neither one of us drive. That's mate, that's the Dumb and Dumber little scooter, isn't it? Guys, love you, bye.
Love ya.